WWE get big success from Wyatt Sicks, say his name and he appeared on NXT, AEW being sued by a former talent, and more. I'm Luke Owen and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Look, I know what you're all thinking. There's no way Luke can shoehorn Limp Bizkit into another WrestleTalk News video, and oh my sweet summer child, you are quite wrong. You see, I saw Limp Bizkit at the weekend in Margate, but, and this might surprise you, I was not the coolest person there. It was in fact this hero, who when the LIMP Bizkit was right there playing My Way, pulled up the WrestleMania X7 hype package for The Rock vs Stone Cold Steve Austin on their phone, which of course was soundtracked by Limp Bizkit's My Way. Hats off to that hero. And hats off to WWE, who saw great success off the back of the debut of the new Wyatt Sicks faction. That's S-I-C-K-S, not S-I-X, or that guy. The new group debuted at the end of Monday's Raw, laying waste to the backstage area and even murdered poor Chad Gable, and it seems to have sparked the imaginations of wrestling fans. The video at the time of this recording has passed over 2 million views on YouTube and is far and away the most popular video upload from this week's Raw. The last time WWE hit over 2 million views for an angle on Raw or SmackDown was back in April when Randy Orton helped Kevin Owens against the Bloodline. That's a bit of an outlier in terms of WWE's YouTube views, as angles like Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa kicking out Jimmy Uso from the group or Rhea Ripley vacating her women's championship did not reach the 2 million mark. You actually have to go back to WrestleMania season to see these sorts of numbers. This chart from WrestleNomics' Patreon page shows just how much bigger Wyatt Sicks' debut was compared to other happenings on Raw. And it was a Raw that was packed elsewhere, with the return of Seth Rollins, Otis splitting from Alpha Academy, Money in the Bank qualifiers, and Drew McIntyre shockingly quitting WWE. And coming off the back of Clash at the Castle, this week's Raw rating was up to 1.6 million viewers, despite going against NBA competition, which drew over 12 million viewers. Both the overall viewership and the 18 to 49 demo were up 10% from last week. For comparison, last Friday's SmackDown drew its lowest rating since December, going against NBA Final Games, which makes this Raw's rating even stronger. What's even more impressive, that although the teasers for the debut date had been reported by, places like Here and were locked away in QR code teasers, Wyatt Sicks' debut was not heavily promoted ahead of time on TV or social media. And according to Fightful Select, the Wyatt group was not listed on rundowns, which was done to avoid the news getting out before the show. However, those QR codes did the job they were intended to do. As Dave Meltzer writes in his F4W online update, judging from the strong first hour, it would lead to curiosity off the pay-per-view, but Hour 3 was stronger than it has been of late. Seth Rollins appearing in that first hour was also not advertised for the show, and Fightful Select report he was not listed as appearing either, noting the segment was listed as a Damian Priest promo. But the question on everyone's lips, apart from is that guy Carmelo Hayes, more on that in a bit, is what's next for the Wyatt Sicks. As had been previously reported over the weekend, Sean Ross Sapp reiterates in his Fightful Select report that, as of Tuesday morning, we're told is still the case that the group won't have supernatural elements. Those were in fact real murders. SRS adds one person in WWE noted that you can't beat ghosts with wrestling moves, indicating that it would be hard to pay that off. I'll be honest, that is one of the funniest reports I've ever had the pleasure of reading out on this show. But who will they be facing? Fightful Select report that the Wyatt Sicks will continue to be acknowledged by wrestlers on screen, like how Jey Uso spoke about them on Raw Talk, but the group isn't likely to interact with every program on Raw. This means they won't be interfering in every feud on the show. However, it's expected within the company that the ramifications will be widespread across various programs with a domino effect on stories that are happening up and down the show. Interestingly, Fightful add, those we spoke to said that the wide array of talent and people attacked in the story and the characters who left before the show were calculated, planned, and designed for specific reasons, which makes Xavier Woods tweeting, "Something didn't feel right last night, so we rolled out of there early. Good thing we did, because we probably wouldn't have made it out otherwise," all the more interesting. Speaking of the victims, and there is still conflicting sightings coming from fans about who can and who cannot be seen in the angle. Chad Gable is very, very visible. I think he's dead. But others, myself included, thought that this was Braun Strowman. On yesterday's WrestleTalk podcast, my co-host Dan Layton argued that it wasn't him, and some of the comments agreed with Dan saying that the tattoos didn't match up. For what it's worth, Bronson Reed, who was set to face both Strowman and Gable in a Money in the Bank qualifier next week, tweeted, "So my opponents are dead? Adam Pearce, do I get in by default?" Another name that people claimed was in the wreckage was Carmelo Hayes. However, he tweeted that it wasn't him. Ludwig Kaiser, who others claimed to have been spotted, also tweeted as if nothing had happened. Triple H also didn't tweet about the attack, instead posting this image of a Bray Wyatt tribute, which would indicate he was not taken out like some felt that he was. Some argue that this was Karrion Kross, but Reddit users pointed out that he was wearing a different outfit earlier in the show. Fightful Select also report that WWE were over the moon with the reaction to the segment, especially as Corpus Christi has been known in the past to be a bad crowd for WWE. Sean Ross Sapp adds, as far as production, buzz, and the feedback that was received from the segment, we're told that WWE was very happy with how all of that worked out. Are you still riding on a high from the Wyatt Sicks debut? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're at it, check out this clip from our WrestleTalk original, where Ollie Davis charts The Rock's journey through wrestling, movies, and his return to wrestling.
Deadline reported in 2023, following DC owners Warner Bros. Merging with Discovery, that The Rock went around DC executives to go right to the very top, pitching his vision of a multi-year Black Adam vs. Superman saga to the company's new CEO, David Zaslav. The attempted power grab didn't go down well inside DC, but if Black Adam was a success, perhaps that wouldn't matter. Unfortunately for The Rock, the movie was badly received both commercially and critically, making only $391 million from a $235 million budget. A Hollywood Reporter noted it would be lucky to break even. Deadline later reported that Black Adam would ultimately turn a profit of $52 to $72 million, but even that's questionable, as a later report claims several Warner executives suspected The Rock's team of inflating the numbers and sending inaccurate figures to save face. Inflating numbers? Rock? Stop being so pro-wrestling!
Over to last night's NXT now, and the show saw the Battle Royal to crown a new #1 contender to Trick Williams' NXT Championship. Cody Rhodes promised on last week's NXT that it would feature names from all locker rooms, and he was not wrong. Apollo Crews, Tyler Bate, Angel Garza, and Humberto Carrillo were among the names from the main roster in the match, and from TNA we saw Frankie Kazarian and, say his name and he appears, Joe Hendry. That's right, former WrestleTalk star Joe Hendry was on NXT last night. Hands up in the comments who remembered that song he did for us when we hit 500,000 subscribers. It had been previously reported that WWE had interest in working with Hendry as part of this TNA partnership, and Corey Brennan of Fightful Select was told that he was provisionally discussed as a possibility for the match. References to Joe Hendry on commentary on both Raw and NXT were planned, according to Fightful Select. Hendry was eliminated first, not counting Ethan Page, who was taken out before the match started, being eliminated by his TNA rival Frankie Kazarian. Hendry later did an angle where he argued with Shawn Michaels, and he said he could show up wherever he wants. Brennan adds in his report that WWE are big fans of Joe Hendry. But that can only get you so far. As Brennan writes in his report, when we asked NXT sources about whether Shawn Michaels would put the NXT Championship on an outside talent, we were told by one source that they believe that Shawn Michaels would make anyone a #1 contender, not a champion, based on recent booking. On that TNA relationship, and Wes Lee was attacked by Gallus in a backstage segment recently, which prompted fans, myself included, to speculate that he could reunite with his TNA stable, the Rascals, to back him up. However, he was announced to be tagging with New Catch Republic instead, and Corey Brennan reports that this was done to not get the hopes up from fans that it would be another TNA crossover match. Man, Frankie Kazarian from TNA was on NXT last night. Remember when he was on AEW when they were doing TNA crossovers? That's my segue for the next segment. Kevin Kelly is Ollie Davis's favourite commentator of all time. He was once too afraid to say hello to him when he was at a New Japan show back in 2018, which is why Ollie Davis was very excited when Kevin Kelly was announced last year to be the lead commentator for AEW's new weekly show Collision. But the relationship between AEW and Kevin Kelly did A, not last long, and B, go well. On a recent episode of Eric Bischoff's Wise Choices podcast, Kelly explained that things were going fine when he first joined AEW, but things fell apart when he went back to New Japan to commentate on the G1, and his replacement, Ian Riccaboni, was reportedly making fun of him on New Japan's Discord server, particularly over his support for the controversial movie Sound of Freedom. Kelly alleges that he contacted AEW's HR department, who then investigated the matter internally and told him that it was dealt with privately. Kelly felt that this was not enough, telling the podcast, "I just wanted an apology and to move on." Kelly was removed from AEW programming, replaced with Tony Schiavone on Collision, and was then let go by the company after an angry tirade against the HR department and a series of angry tweets about All Elite Wrestling itself. He said, "I was let go for the things I was saying publicly about the company on social media and the voice message I had left for the nice HR lady." When asked by Bischoff if he was going to take legal action against AEW, Kelly replied, "Yeah, of course. I have to." Speaking of backstage politics and shenanigans, now go and check out Ollie Davis's video about The Rock's history of backstage politics.